Are there other forms of kinship outside the family? In countries with a long history of colonialism, like the Caribbean archipelago, sexuality was one of the main ways in which colonial authority and racial distinctions were structured, which, in turn, justified the oppression of its inhabitants. After the United States occupied Puerto Rico, United States colonial officials collaborated with local elites, politicians, and former landowners under Spanish colonial rule to eradicate prostitution, criminalize sodomy, and promise marriage among Puerto Ricans of the racially fluid popular classes in order to stabilize their families. This was intended to pave the way for what they envisioned as la Gran Familia Puertorriqueña, the great Puerto Rican family. In the official discourses of the time, Puerto Rican people were described as racially and immunologically different from Americans living in temperate zones, who were thought to have no contact with tropical parasites unless they mated with tropical people. Impoverished Puerto Ricans, especially Puerto Rican women, were rendered sick and rowdy. As a result, in its efforts to sanitize and stabilize the Puerto Rican population, U.S. colonial officials developed a series of laws to improve the island's way of life with the help of Puerto Rican elites, who saw themselves at the top of a local racial and class hierarchy. They understood themselves as having the authority and moral superiority to oversee people's sexual behaviors. Considered ill simply because they lived in the tropics, where supposedly tropical parasites proliferated, Jíbaros became the case study that led to the founding of the School of Tropical Medicine, the predecessor to the University of Puerto Rico School of Medicine. In its efforts to sanitize and stabilize the Puerto Rican population, Dr. Bailey K. Ashford, a pioneer in tropical medicine, discovered the cause of the deadly and widespread illness as anemia perniciosa, tapeworm. In 1902, continuing their efforts to domesticize the supposedly disordered Puerto Rican sexual practices, United States administrators and officials passed a law legalizing divorce for Puerto Ricans of all economic backgrounds, the first law of its kind in Latin America. The colonial officials believed that by allowing divorce, people would be more willing to get married, especially among those from lower economic classes. This prompted the Puerto Rican Catholic Church to encourage the working classes to marry and urged Puerto Ricans to abandon the rural custom of common law marriage and instead formalize their unions before the state and the church. In the same year, United States officials criminalized non-normative sexual practices. According to La Fountain Stokes, during the 20th century, homosexuality in Puerto Rico had been viewed as a threat to the national character and as a form of deviant behavior against which the national population needed protection. This is why the act of sodomy between men was penalized with incarceration. However, when examining the reasons for Caribbean migration, gender and sexual differences are often overlooked as significant factors driving people to leave their homes and families behind. These public behaviors of Puerto Rican men and women defining virile men, respectable women, and decent families. But these racist, elitist, and sexist discourses have been contested and challenged by the people from the diaspora. According to scholar Juan G. Gelpi, any possibility of rupture with the paternalistic and sexist Puerto Rican canon is based on a writing that is based on dispersion and insubordination. It will be a writing of immigrants in the literal and figurative sense. Liberation movements, African American women, and LGBTQA+ communities are prime examples of how diaspora communities challenge and fight for their rights against oppression and discrimination within their community. When people from different cultural backgrounds come together and find common ground, the victories of marginalized communities can lead to a chain of change and open doors for other neglected communities to be seen. For instance, LaFountain Stokes mentions that it is precisely in the writings of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, and queer Diasporican poets, novelists, painters, and filmmakers who have been traditionally interpreted as deviant and immoral that alternative, fluid, and diverse forms of kinship can be imagined and practiced.